All right, a little trivia for you. Prior to 1914, do you know who elected your senators to represent your state in Washington, D.C.? It might surprise you, but it was your state legislators that chose two people to represent their state in Washington, D.C. as their senators. 1914, during Woodrow Wilson's tenure, the 17th Amendment passed, which changed how federal senators were chosen. Now they are chosen by a popular vote. Woodrow Wilson wanted the 17th Amendment because, so he says, and could be somewhat true, that the state legislators had a tough time agreeing on who to choose to represent them in Washington as their senators. There's a problem to that, in my opinion, and I'll give you a prime example. Is like today, everybody knows, hopefully everybody knows Joe Manchin. He's a senator from the state of West Virginia, and lately he's been in the news and special interests and social media just bombard this guy because he's voting what West Virginia wants him to vote for. He represents the state of West Virginia, not Kentucky, not Pennsylvania, not New York or California. He represents West Virginia. Well, what's happening, in my opinion, these special interest groups, these social media oligarchs, all gang up on this guy. They have nothing to do with West Virginia. None of them live in West Virginia. It's outside influence, and bash Joe Manchin, when Joe Manchin's just trying to represent Washington or West Virginia in Washington, D.C. My point is this. I've probably got a few points, but one of the points is this. These special interest groups, these lobbyists, they have a ton of money, right? It's easier for them to fork out money amongst 100 senators, the way it is now, which were elected by popular vote, than it is to fork out money prior to 1914, prior to the 17th Amendment. 7,500 state legislators throughout the United States who elected or chose people to represent them in Washington, D.C. as their senators. So basically, would you, if you're a lobbyist, would you rather go to 100 senators, or would you rather have your money go to 7,500 state legislators who choose the senators? To me, it's a no-brainer in that aspect. Pretty much, if you went back pre-17th Amendment, it would almost, not all, almost wipe out lobbyists, wipe out all these special interest groups, wipe out, I don't know about social media, but because they would have to go to each state legislator in that state. Why did you pick this guy to represent West Virginia? Whereas now, they just bombard the senator. They don't give a crap about the popular vote, who voted for him. They just go after the senator himself. So, you talk about centralized government. There's one other thing. These senators now are more worried about what the nation thinks, more so what their state thinks, because they're not chosen by. They're just more worried about what the nation thinks than what their state thinks. If they were to have to answer to the state legislators, they would be removed if they're not going along with that state and their beliefs. Another point is this. What happens in Oklahoma, how they live their life, is totally different than what happens in New York or California and how they live their life. So, Joe Manchin from West Virginia should worry about West Virginia. Okay? This brings power back to the state. It brings back accountability to these senators. Hey, when you come home to the state and you didn't vote this way, us state legislators are ousting you. You're out. We're going to appoint somebody else in there. More accountability. There's no accountability with the popular vote, in my opinion. If you look at how many people that are voting that have no idea what they're voting on, they see a D behind their name or an R behind their name, they hit the lever, they have no idea. Just my thought process on that. A little trivia for you. Let's bring back power to the states. What Pennsylvania needs, wants, should be no business of California, no business of anybody other states. And that's the way it should be, in my opinion.